You know, it's a strange thing. We live in this age of incredible comfort, right? Anything we want is just a click away. And yet, so many of us feel this, I don't know, this deep unease, like something crucial is just gone. All the old maps that used to show us the way, tradition, religion, those shared values, it feels like they've all been ripped to shreds. So that leaves us with a huge question. How in the world do you build a meaningful life in the silence that's left behind?
And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? We are absolute masters of the outside world. We've built skyscrapers and solved incredible problems. But while we were so busy building outwards, we kind of let our inner worlds just fall apart. Those beliefs, those values that acted like a compass for generations before us, they've pretty much turned to dust. And what we're left with is this weird, aching spiritual hunger. We're basically adrift in this giant ocean of comfort, and we've lost our stars to navigate by.
So this brings us to, well, to the core choice, really, the choice of our time. And this is a challenge aimed directly at you. Are you going to be a passive spectator in your own life? Just a shadow of the things you've done, haunted by your past? Or are you going to become the light that consumes all that? A creator of your own meaning, someone strong enough to own every single part of your story, the good and the bad. That's the big question we're diving into.
Okay, so to figure out where we're going, we first have to get a real handle on the problem. So let's start with Act 1, the cracking of the mask. This is all about facing the crisis, both inside of us and in the world at large. And it all starts with this performance we put on every single day.
Yeah, you can think of it like a story, the parable of the performer. The philosopher Nietzsche talked about this constant battle between two big forces. See, every one of us wears this golden mask, the Apollonian mask. It's our persona of perfect order, total control. It's the face we show the world. But underneath that, whoa, underneath is the Dionysian abyss, this swirling chaos of our real feelings, our deepest fears, all our pain. And we just dance and dance, hoping to God nobody, not even ourselves, gets a peek behind that mask.
But you know how it goes. Sooner or later, the music stops. A crisis hits. And in that awful, deafening silence, the mask cracks. And what crawls out from behind it? It's what the psychologist Carl Jung would later call the shadow. It's personified here as the ugliest man. And it's everything we've ever pushed down, everything we hate and deny about ourselves. It's absolutely terrifying to look at. But, and this is the key, that moment is the only real place to start if you actually want to grow.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. Because this whole mask cracking thing, it's not just happening to you and me. It's a full-blown cultural crisis. As a whole society, we've literally torn down our own temples. I'm talking about the shared myths, the big stories that used to give everyone a sense of direction. We become these master builders of a physical world that, well, it leaves our souls completely starving.
So what happens when you create a giant spiritual vacuum? Well, nature abhors a vacuum, right? Something is always going to rush in to fill that space. Without those old guiding myths, people start desperately looking for something else. And a lot of the time, they turn to political ideologies as a kind of substitute religion. The problem is, these are often false idols. They tell you to sacrifice your own conscience for the good of the group, to rally under some collective banner. And instead of bringing people together, what does that do? It almost always leads to more division, more conflict.
All right, so the mask is cracked. You're standing at the edge, staring right into the abyss. Now what? Act 2 is all about the wrong turns you can take, the cautionary tales of people who completely fumbled this moment. Right off the bat, you're faced with two totally different ways of seeing yourself. And getting this wrong, well, it's the first big trap. On one side, you have the despisers of the body. These are the people who think your physical self is just some dirty prison, a cage that's holding back your pure, beautiful spirit. But then you have Zarathustra's wisdom, and this is a game changer. He says, no, your body is the real intelligence here. Your mind, your spirit, that's just a tool. It's a plaything for the body. This is what's called the great reason. And it's not what you think. It's not your logical thoughts. It's that deep, ancient, instinctual wisdom of your whole body. You know, that gut feeling you get, that flash of intuition that comes out of nowhere, those drives that you can't quite explain, that's the great reason. Your conscious mind, what he calls poor reason, is just running along behind it, like a frantic commentator trying to explain the game after the play has already been made. So to despise your body, you're literally cutting yourself off from your main source of wisdom.
And if you want to see what happens when someone fails to master this inner world, well, let's look at our second cautionary tale, the pale criminal. This quote absolutely nails it. He's not really evil, not in the way you might think. He's just a man filled with this intense, chaotic energy, these wild serpents, and he has absolutely zero strength to control them, or, more importantly, to channel them into something creative.
So let's just walk through his tragedy step by step. First, his great reason, that deep impulse from his body, it craved the raw power of a violent act, the happiness of the knife, as Nietzsche puts it. But once he actually did it, once that impulse was unleashed, his poor reason, his logical mind, it couldn't handle it. The truth was too much. So what did it do? It made up a lie. It invented a reason that sounded better. I did it for the gold, not for the thrill of the blood. Why? Because his spirit was too weak to face the terrifying truth of its own nature. And the result? His entire sense of self just collapses.
And this image is just perfect. It gets to the absolute core of it. See, the pale criminal's real failure wasn't the crime itself. It was his inability to own it. He was brave enough to break the rules, to say no to the law. But he didn't have the strength to build something new in that space he created. He was supposed to be a bridge to a higher version of himself, but the bridge just snapped right in the middle.
Okay, so hating your body is a dead end, and letting your inner chaos just run wild leads to total collapse. So where do we go from here? What's the right path? Well, that brings us to Act 3, the architect's dance. This is the heroic path. This is about becoming the architect of your own meaning.
So what is the way forward? Here's the most important thing to get. You can't go back. We can't just slap some plaster on the old temples and pretend they're not ruins. We can't just retreat into the myths of the past. That world is over. Now the responsibility falls right on your shoulders. It's on the individual. This is what you could call the age of the hero, and the job is to become your own architect, to build your own house of meaning, one painful brick at a time.
And how do you even do that? Well, it's not by declaring war on your dark side. It's more like a mystical marriage. It's about taking that golden mask, your ordered, conscious self, and uniting it with that wild, chaotic shadow you've been running from your whole life. And yeah, it's a terrifying process. It means accepting all the parts of you that you hate. But here's the magic. In that dance, your pain doesn't just go away. It becomes your anchor. Your chaos doesn't disappear. It becomes the fuel for your fire, the energy for creation. And what's the ultimate goal here? It's to reach a state that Nietzsche called amor fati. It means, literally, the love of one's fate. And this is not about just passively accepting your lot in life. No way. It's a fierce, active, joyful yes to everything. It's the strength to look back at your entire life, the highest highs and the absolute lowest, most gut-wrenching lows, and to say, from the bottom of your soul, yes, I would live it all again. I wouldn't change a thing.
That brings us to this incredible image. In the mud of the abyss, you will find the wild lilies blooming. I mean, how powerful is that? It tells you everything you need to know. Real beauty, real meaning, those wild lilies. You don't find them by running away from your suffering. You find them right in the middle of it. They grow directly out of the mud of your worst struggles. So the darkness, it isn't the thing blocking your path to meaning, it's the soil you need for meaning to grow in the first place.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Full circle. This whole heroic journey we've been talking about, it's completely impossible if you hate your own body, if you despise your own nature. Honoring that great reason, the wisdom of your body, is the only way to grow a spirit that can actually withstand anything. The spirit isn't some ghost floating around in your head. It's the beautiful flower that can only bloom from the rich, messy, earthy soil of your own being.
So we end right back where we began, with a choice. The old rules are gone. The old tablets of meaning are smashed to pieces. And we're all standing here in the silence that's left. But you have to see, this is not a disaster. This is the greatest opportunity you could ever ask for. The page is completely blank. The pen is in your hand. So the only real question left is, what are you going to have the courage to write?